The village square was alive with celebration. Brightly colored Kent cloths, the rhythmic beat of drums, and the joyous voices of villagers filled the air. Akosua, radiant in her wedding attire, walked hand in hand with Kojo, her new husband. She smiled shyly at the cheering crowd, but beneath the surface, her heart fluttered with nerves. Her wedding day had unfolded like a dream, the perfect union in the eyes of her family and community. Akosua, a modest and soft-spoken young woman, had been the subject of admiration as she stood beside Kojo, the man her family had chosen for her. She had been told that he was a good man, a respectable man, and that he would take care of her. The women from the village teased her as she passed, whispering words of advice about her wedding night, words that made her blush and avert her eyes. Tonight, everything changes, Akosua thought, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As the festivities died down, the newlyweds entered their home. The room was dimly lit by a flickering lantern, casting long shadows on the mud brick walls. The scent of incense lingered in the air, mixing with the quiet of the night. The vibrant colors of Akosua's wedding dress now lay neatly folded in the corner, and she sat on the bed, wearing a simple white cloth. Kojo stood by the window, his back to her, his silhouette outlined by the faint moonlight streaming through the small window. The silence between them had grown heavy, suffocating. Akosua glanced at him, waiting for him to say something, but he remained still, distant. She felt the weight of the night pressing on her. This was supposed to be the moment where everything began, their life together, their future. But something was wrong. Kojo's behavior, his silence, his reluctance to even look at her, it all filled her with unease. Kojo, she finally asked, her voice breaking the tense quiet. Are you alright? He didn't respond at first, his body stiff as if frozen in place. Akosua's heart pounded as she waited. Her fingers twisted the edges of the bedsheet, her nervousness growing with each passing second. When Kojo finally turned around, his face was pale, his eyes clouded with something she couldn't quite place, fear, guilt, maybe both. He moved toward her, but each step felt labored, like he was carrying the weight of a secret too painful to bear. I have something to tell you, he said, his voice low and strained. Akosua's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, confusion twisting in her chest. His tone sent a shiver down her spine. Kojo stood before her now, his hands trembling as he struggled to find the words. His gaze fell to the floor, avoiding hers, and Akosua's stomach twisted with dread. I'm not the man you think I am, he said, his voice cracking. Akosua blinked, her mind racing. She didn't understand. What do you mean? She asked softly, her heart hammering in her chest. Her palms were damp with sweat, her body tense as she waited for his answer. Kojo swallowed hard. I was born without manhood, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. The room seemed to tilt as the words sunk in. Akosua's world crumbled around her. Her knees weakened, and she grasped the edge of the bed for support, her eyes wide in disbelief. No, she whispered, shaking her head. This can't be true. The night that was supposed to mark the beginning of their life together now felt like the end of everything. She had been raised to believe that a woman's worth was tied to her role as a wife and mother. She had imagined a future filled with children, with family. But now, all of it felt like a cruel lie. You should have told me, Akosua said, her voice rising with anger. You should have told me before we married. Kojo's face was etched with shame. He looked away, unable to face her fury. I thought we could make it work. That maybe love would be enough. Akosua felt a bitter laugh escape her lips. Love, she said, her voice thick with disbelief. "You lied to me. How could you think love could fix this?" As Akosua stood there, grappling with the crushing weight of Kojo's revelation, something stirred in her memory. A week before the wedding, she had overheard two elderly women at the market whispering about Kojo. Flashback to a week before. Two old women stood by a store, their voices low as they gossiped. The first woman said, "You know about Kojo, don't you? They say something's wrong with him." The second woman said, "His parents have kept it quiet, but one day, his wife will know the truth." That poor girl. Akosua had dismissed their words then, brushing them off as village gossip. But now, standing in the cold, suffocating silence of her wedding night, the memory burned in her mind. Had her family known? Had they sent her into this marriage without warning, without telling her the truth? Her heart pounded harder, her mind spiraling with suspicion and anger. Overwhelmed, Akosua rushed out of the room, out into the cool night air. She needed space, time to think. The village compound was quiet now, the celebration long over. The sounds of crickets filled the air, a stark contrast to the storm raging in her mind. As she stood beneath a large baobab tree, her breathing ragged, Akosua felt a presence. Slowly, she turned and saw an elderly woman standing in the shadows. It was Nana Abina, the village elder. Wrapped in a long, dark cloth, Nana Abina's face was mostly hidden, but her piercing eyes glowed in the darkness. "The ancestors speak to me," Nana Abina said, her voice low and foreboding. This marriage was never meant to be. Akosua froze, her heart racing. Nana Abina was known for her connection to the spiritual world, for her ability to communicate with the ancestors. Akosua had always respected her, even feared her wisdom. "What do you mean?" Akosua asked, her voice trembling. Nana Abina stepped closer, her face partially illuminated by the moonlight. "The man you married, there is a curse on his family. His parents made a deal with the spirits long ago, and that is why he was born this way. If you stay with him, you will never know peace." Akosua's blood ran cold. A curse. The village gossip, the hidden truth, it all made sense now. Her marriage, her future, had been tainted by something far darker than she could have ever imagined. Akosua stood rooted to the spot, her mind swirling with confusion, fear, and disbelief. Nana Abina's words echoed in her ears. A curse. How could she stay in this marriage, knowing it was doomed from the start? But if she left, the shame would be unbearable. Her family would be humiliated, and she would carry the burden of being a disgraced woman for the rest of her life. Tears welled up in her eyes as she glanced back at the house, where Kojo sat, oblivious to her conversation with Nana Abina. The choice before her was impossible. Could she defy the traditions that bound her and walk away from this cursed marriage, or would she remain trapped, sacrificing her future for the sake of her family's honor? Nana Abina's voice broke through the silence. "The ancestors have revealed the truth to you. What you choose now is up to you, but know this, the spirits will always have their way." Akosua's fist clenched at her sides. Her future, once bright and full of promise, now stood on the edge of a precipice. One step forward, and everything could crumble.